Thomas Massey was ousted by our
Round of applause for Angela. Yeah, look, obviously it's I think fairly big news within the Liberty space that we're talking. Like at short notice, if we can, good to jump on and discuss this kind of. I suppose how this reflects upon the strategy that's been taken by Angela McArdle and others at the Mises Caucus and whatnot.
testing 1 2 3. Um, what the fuck? Is this better? Hello, everyone. This stream is healthy. Dropping frames. Look like it. Fixed it. Hello, is this all looking fine to you guys? That sounds good. Time paradox. Is this good? It should be good now. Yeah, no, the restream was lagging behind there. It hadn't showed that I was severely lagging. Works now. Cool. It's good. Apologies for that. I'll head back onto the old space.
Like my perspective on it, or why I think this matters, is because it's a demonstration of what's wrong with the strategy that's being employed by the Libertarian Party under this leadership. Because, like, this was their guy. Like, this was one of the guys that they were hanging their hats on. It's like, look, we've got Thomas Massey in the federal government. He can do good things for us. I see Zulu's come back. But yeah, we have Thomas Massey. He's going to be really, really good for us. We're going to hang our hats on that. Installing into the government. So with that said, Zulu, are you back? Are you hearing? You working? All
Yep,
good?
should be good. It was strange because the space was working perfectly fine for me, but then I looked down at my old OBS here, and it was showing like drop frames 50%, so I was like, well, that's not good. So let's try and fix that real quick.
Yeah, so look, I was just about to throw to you. What's kind of your big takeaway from seeing this news, I suppose, about Thomas Massey?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just a total vindication of everything I said in Anatomy of the Libertarian, that this pragmatist strategy is indeed doomed to failure, because it's built on, obviously, all the false premises I laid out in that video, but it's also just more basically built on the assumption that they can trust the word of these politicians, that they can go in, make a deal with Donald Trump to do X, Y, and Z, and that he's not going to immediately turn around and completely, go against whatever he said he was going to do. I mean, that's they all. I mean, even the current Nicalia, the guy who runs the Libertarian Party right now, I've got screenshots of him being like, "Oh yeah, no, people should read Machiavelli. Machiavelli's great. Machiavelli this, Machiavelli that." It's like, well, if you actually look at what Machiavelli's saying, you shouldn't trust people's words when you're vying for power against them. Well, you shouldn't trust their word. And all of these Mises Caucus neoprags, they were acting like we were fucking insane for even suggesting that perhaps it's not the best strategy to hang all your hopes on a man who has already had a track record of doing horrendous things by our standards. Lest we forget that it was Donald Trump who started the lockdowns in the US. He was president when the lockdowns were coming out. I've got a clip farm of him as well, saying we gotta close the country down. We had to shut down the airports. No president has ever done this before. I'm gonna shut down the United States of America. I'm gonna be the first president to shut down the United States of America. And when we were saying, well, perhaps this might lead to some bad effects if this guy comes back in again, we were met with a chorus of, you people are just living in anarcho-capitalism in our heads. Well, guess what? Your strategy of, I guess, living in anarcho-capitalism in reality has now flipped his district towards the Democrats. Let's be real here. That's what's happening. The Democrats are probably going to win this one now. Because there's going to be a lot of pissed off Massey people who absolutely abhor the fucking the other guy they got in. Massey had a lot of support around his whole going after the Epstein class thing, bipartisan support. Massey is liked by a lot of people. I think they're in a bit of a precarious situation now. They were already in a precarious situation for the midterms, but now even more so. So and the Libertarians. That's only on the Republican side, but the Libertarians now have been Angela McArdle, who wanted to claim every single win for libertarianism in the early days as being fucking personally delivered by her. Well, guess what? She also delivered this to us. Let's concede. Let's cede that point that Angela McArdle is personally responsible for freeing Ross Ulbricht. She's also then personally responsible for getting Thomas Massey out of the primaries. Thank you, Angela McArdle. There you go. I cede your premise there, Angela.
Right. That's one of the points that I wanted to make was like, we're not clowning on these people because we actually think that they like had enough influence to, oust Thomas Massey personally. It's not that I think that like Dave Smith and Angela McArdle are the real puppet masters here, and they're really pulling the strings, and they actually wanted to get Thomas Massey ousted. That's not the point. The point is, if you accept, as you said, if you accept their premise that they're responsible for getting Trump into power. Remember, Angela talks about being the kingmaker. That's her whole thing. Is like, I'm the kingmaker here. We're not the kings, but we're the kingmakers. Then you got to accept the good with the bad. That's the thing. Is like the logic doesn't only work when things are going in your favor. And they've gone in their favor for exactly one thing that I can remember, which was Ross Ulbricht. So yeah, again, we'll cede that. Okay, what about all the other stuff that you were promised? Remember how we were told that we were going to get a libertarian in Donald Trump's cabinet, and then we ended up having to do this like weird maths where it was like, well, I guess kind of Tulsi Gabbard's worth a quarter of a libertarian because she's good on war, and then she actually wasn't good on war because she advocated for, or she
I think it's the one
co-signed.
drop rule. If they got one drop of libertarianism in them, then they're a libertarian in the cabinet.
Yeah, right, exactly. And what's his name? RFK is good on something. I can't even remember what he was supposed to be good on, but apparently he was good on something. Oh, maybe the lockdowns. Which I mean, originally he wasn't good on the lockdowns. There's tweets going back to 2020 where he was advocating for lockdowns, but then apparently he changed his mind. How can that's not convenient at all. So point being that yeah, if they're to be believed, then they should absolutely take personal responsibility for the fact that Thomas Massey is no longer a member of the federal government. I wanted to bring in. Oh, what happened to? I had a Dave Smith post in the like little jumbotron thing up the top, but it's now not there anymore. I don't know why that's happened. Let me put it back up.
I can see you tweeting a Dave
Yeah,
Smith
yeah.
post.
So, okay. So I don't know what's that. I don't know. Maybe it just
Did he
came down
block you?
for me. Well, yeah. So what I well, yeah, because he blocked me. So
Well,
what I had
that's
to do
that's probably
was
why.
yeah, no. So, but I was already blocked. So what I had to do is I backdoored it. I went on to Liquid Zulu No Context, and because I'm not blocked on that on that account, so I then like got the link to the post and then DM'd myself on Monhop and then grabbed the post that way. So I managed to get it. But yeah, so basically it's Dave Smith, obviously coping about this whole thing, and he basically posts this, like quote from Rosie Perez, who I haven't heard of, to be quite honest. Apparently, she's a philosopher.
Allegedly.
Web, oh yeah, which and it says sometimes when you win, you really lose, and sometimes when you lose, you really win. And I think that's honestly hilarious coming from someone who endorsed like this pragmatist strategy of winning is the end goal. Like that is honestly delicious irony coming from Dave Smith of all people. Like Zulu, do you have any kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean it's the constant test and check method of the pragmatists. Like I mean, people can't even to this day. People are saying, "No, you're confusing things. Dave Smith isn't an actual philosophical pragmatist. He just means something other than that. What that other thing is, who the fuck knows? Um, but you're being too autistic about this. Looking back at what the actual pragmatist philosophers are saying, but you can see it very clearly in what he's saying. This is the test and check method. It's it's kind of like the scientific method. We just got to go out there and test and check. Oh well, it didn't work, but now we can try something new again. And they're never really proven wrong on their premises because all they got to do is just go, well, that might have been wrong then, but now it might be right. Right? Pragmatism might not have worked then, but now it might work. So we gotta live in reality, guys. We gotta be here in the here and now. We gotta see if this thing's gonna work. And it doesn't even matter that we lost, because we can never lose, because it's a self-perpetuating cycle. Like this is the kind of ideas you see coming out of pragmatists. It's it's really sickening. Um, physical removal enthusiast. Wait, Mon Hop is Liquid Zulu no context. Yes, he is.
Yes, yeah, yeah. That is me. He is me. Yeah. By the way, obviously we got you. You can always change your mind up on the stage here. Please pop your hand up if you want to join in. Anyone else that is on the space, please, if you want to grab a microphone, say your piece. Please feel free to. We will. Obviously, we got. It's not one of those spaces at the moment, I guess, because of the time zone thing. It's not one of those spaces where we've got 14 people with their hands up at the same time that I've got to wade through. So you'll get plenty of opportunity to speak if you do want to come up. So don't waste this opportunity, I suppose. But getting back to what I was going to say, or picking up on what Zulu said, like I think from my perspective, this is why we shouldn't feel like this is going to be a turning point for like any of these people, like Angela or Dave or Clint Russell, or pick your favorite neo-Prag Mises Caucus type. Like, it's not going to be the fact that they stuffed up and got Donald Trump in, who then primaried Massey, that led to them. That's going to lead to them, suddenly renouncing pragmatism. Because from their perspective, like as you said, it's the guess and check method. Okay, they're just going to try it again, like somewhere else down the line. Maybe they might talk about in this kind of cycle that they go through. Maybe this is where they start talking about principles again. Okay, maybe this is where they, go back to their roots, so to speak. But come the next, most important election of our lifetimes, which will be in 2028, they'll be right back to doing what they've always done, which is, advocating for the next, candidate that kind of suits their aims, I suppose. Um, I did want to, I suppose, did you have any kind of other thoughts that you want, or other like threads that you wanted to pull on this whole Massey thing, Zulu, at all?
No, I think I'm good leaving it there for now. Obviously, I've only just found out about this. So I haven't had much time to collect notes or anything.
No, for sure. Well, look, one of the other things I wanted to talk about, is funny. So, obviously, Dave Smith, our good friend, um, had Nick Fuentes on his podcast again recently. I haven't watched the latest episode, but it's now the second time that Dave has had Fuentes on his podcast in the last 7 months, which seems to be like it doesn't seem to have these like reoccurring guests very often. The part of the problem podcast is like mostly Dave monologuing with a bit of the other guy, Robbie, the Fire. He'll like come in for he probably speaks for 10, maybe 20% of the podcast, and it's mostly Dave like monologuing or doing like responding to clips, that kind of stuff. but like occasionally has guests, and it's been shocking to me to see him have Fuentes on twice in the span of 7 months. He's never had. I can't see him ever having had the same guest on in such a short period of time. And second of all, like having so Dave's part of the problem typically runs anywhere from like the shortest episode that I could find when I scrolled back was about 50 minutes, and the longest was about the 1 hour 20 mark. Most of them land between an hour and an hour 10 minutes. So that's what seems what he's kind of targeting is the hour mark and maybe a little bit over. Okay. Both these Fuentes podcasts combined run for close to 7 hours across two podcasts. So I mean, I don't know exactly what to make of this. I'm just wondering whether like we're starting to see Dave like latch on to the latest grift of some description, maybe one to keep an eye on. I don't know, like I feel like libertarianism is too important to his brand, despite the fact that he's not really a libertarian at this point. But I don't know, Zulu, like is that something to keep an eye on, do you think? Is like the next grift for maybe some of these people, whether it's Dave or someone else coming along now that from their perspective, maybe libertarianism has kind of served its usefulness to their ends?
Yeah, I mean, with these people, you always have to keep an eye on what the next grift will be, and at least hopefully this time he won't drag the name of libertarianism through the muck whilst he does it. Hopefully he does just say, yeah, I'm no longer a libertarian. I am just like liberty aligned, whatever the fuck kind of buzzword he comes up with that. I'm a Praxian now, or whatever. I remember when they tried getting that one through. Um, yeah, no, these people, they're always going to try some new grift. Um, I mean, Dave is what, like 50? I don't have high hopes for him, coming around and realizing after decades in the libertarian movement that perhaps he should actually learn a little bit of libertarianism, as he's always telling us to do. So, like, yeah, I don't think this is going to be his big wake up call to become an actual radical again. But it is definitely possible that he's trying to see where the water's warmest, as it were.
I did see one funny clip from the Fuentes thing, and I wanted to. It was like a very, very short one, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So he basically they're talking about that what's his name? The Chud guy, whatever his name, the guy
Shut
that
the builder.
yeah, that guy that's in a lot of trouble at the moment, basically, for shooting some black guy over some dispute. I don't know the specifics, but basically, they're talking about it at some point on the podcast, and Dave says, well, as a radical libertarian that believes in the non aggression principle, I could make a super advanced libertarian argument for why, like, if you, say certain things, that counts as like a, invitation or you're consenting to fight or something of that nature. And I'm like, bro, it's not an advanced libertarian argument. This stuff's been around for like that's the thing that fucking nags me about this dude is like he talks about these like basic concepts that we've all known about, and then it's like, this is actually like really high level stuff. It was like when he was talking about the donut homestead thing. I'm pretty sure that was when he was responding to you originally on Jacob Winograd's podcast, and he was like, no one's really solved like the donut homestead thing. This is like a high level complex debate, and it's like, man, like this is stuff that's been resolved for over 10 years. Like you're so out of touch with where the libertarian movement is at. So maybe we can segue into a discussion of that particular incident that he's talking about. But again, Zulu, it just seems like the lack of connection to where the liberty movement is actually at now, where the groundswell of support is kind of jarring to me when he brings up these like super advanced libertarian arguments that are actually like not really that super advanced.
Yeah, no, and he's completely misunderstanding what the argument is. It's not if you're mean to somebody, therefore you're carte blanche for getting beat to death. That's not the argument. Um, the argument is rather that it is possible to communicate things not in literal words. That it's possible for me to go up to the biggest, brawliest guy in the toughest, roughest, toughest bar in town and say, your mother's a fucking whore, let's go outside. And what I'm meaning is, hey, let's go have a fight right now. Right? That's possible. Even though I didn't say the words, good sir, would you like to have some fisticuffs with me right now? I don't have to say those words literally, or won't someone rid me of this petulant priest or turbulent priest, whatever his words were. Right? It is possible to communicate things not in literal words. That's the argument. That doesn't mean that because you were really ornery in the past and you've said some very mean things, that suddenly months later somebody can come up to you and try and beat you to death. That's not even close to being the libertarian case on that. And he's trying to present it as the libertarian case. So it might be super advanced for him, but it's not actually. It's so advanced that you didn't actually get it right.
I did want to. So Judah left a comment, but I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about. So he's up on the stage, and Judah, I'm going to call on you to, you know, speak up. So you asked about, I know you asked about Praxben, and I'm going to discuss that. But as part of your like, I suppose, comment below, explain what you're talking about. Perhaps. I guess. Okay, that's fine. Well, so hang on, let me pop it up in the thingamajig. Zoo. So he's talking about
By the way, you were
hug
lagging a little bit
tube.
right now. I don't know if you are for the other people.
I'm lagging, am I? Fuck. Uh, well, my girlfriend had to call me earlier. I don't know if that's. Are you hearing me okay?
You are lagging.
All right. Maybe I'll. Maybe I'll just want to open a new.
Uh, I'm not lagging, am I? I no drop frames on my end, so not sure what's going on there. Dave's new arc will be I was a stupid libertarian, but now I've grown up and fully support the might and power of the US government, freedom and democracy. Entirely possible. Yep, stream's all good. Okay, yeah, so it must on his end. Hello.
All right. Are we back? We good?
Sounds good now.
All right. I think that was because my girlfriend tried to call me like 3 times in a row, and that's obviously done things to the stream. Anyway,
Silence. I'm too busy
um,
talking about the Remnant.
yeah, exactly. I literally had to like I was trying to like do two things at once. I was trying to talk and then also text her and be like, "Stop calling me!" Like I'm in the middle of something. Anyway, so where were we? We were talking about. Oh yeah, so Judah like expanded on what he was talking about. He was referencing like chud tubers like Tax Brass and other like more maybe more alt-right content creators. I'm not really familiar with many of them, to be honest. Like I'm not really on that side of YouTube, apart from like watching some of Tax Brass's content. Like he's the only kind of one, I guess, who maybe is in that ecosystem that I engage with. As far as Tax Brass's content, like I don't mind it. Like he makes good videos. Seems like there was like a mixed reception to his collab with Zulu. Some people found like his kind of style maybe jarring as against how Zulu goes about it. Like I just think that I don't know. It's two different styles. Like it's I definitely think he has a more like, I don't know, light-hearted take on things maybe, or uses maybe some different like references than what Zulu would use. But like, hey, like whatever helps you make content, I guess like that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing a clearly a good job at it as well. I mean, he's cranking out a lot of videos. They're getting pretty popular. Like, he wanted to collab, and I was like, yeah, this seems like a good enough fit. I mean, he's stood up for me in the past. He's come out. I mean, the idea of the pragmatism video. He wanted to do a video on pragmatism, like on his own, right? He already was sporting the radicalist faction within libertarianism. He was already supporting that. So it seems like a match made in heaven. I don't really see the problem. Yeah, people people getting really pissed off about that. I don't know, cry about it more. What do you want? What do you want me to say?
Yeah, right. I think we could kind of segue into discussing this a bit. If people want to talk about Massey, by all means. But like, I was kind of like banking on people kind of having their own take to give to like continue the conversation. So we can just, yeah, I guess discuss this a bit more. Like, I think I even saw someone that was like, there was like some Liberty Twitter confessions page that's been like posting some stuff recently, and like I'm guessing you can just like DM them like submissions, like anonymous things that you want posted on their account. So okay, and one of them was like, you know, tax brass is like some kind of like insight, like is you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like subversive. He's subversive. That's the word I was looking for. He's like subversive on the libertarian movement. Like he's coming in like with his like chuddy kind of style, and obviously the memes that he uses and references and stuff to basically like ruin the libertarian movement. And it's like, okay, like I want to see some actual evidence for that beyond just like the style of memes that he uses in his content. Like I haven't watched all of his content. But what I have watched, it's like, yeah, I mean, the dude discusses stuff other than libertarian theory, but like that's not really a problem. Like, I get it. Like, if you want to focus on topics that are interesting to you, then like by all means, you don't have to stick to just autistically dissecting each element of some textbook on libertarianism 101. So like I don't really see a problem with that. I just think it's kind of maybe people being, I don't know what's the right word, maybe a little bit paranoid or something about this stuff. Oh, also, can you pull that one back up that you had up on what was it? The like Liquid Zulu cult of personality.
Yeah, it's got a screenshot. I mean, I'm home. Pick up kitten. I'm tired of the disrespect. I will punish you if you don't answer. Pick up. I'm not playing games tonight, which I found funny.
Yeah. I got into a back and forth with someone the other day. I'm not gonna say who it was. Um, but they were basically accusing you of like having a cult of personality within libertarianism. So Zulu, I want to get your take. Do you believe you have developed a cult of personality within the liberty movement?
I mean, I suspect that a lot of these people just don't have personality. They don't have charisma. So they don't know what it's like to be to have somebody who's liked. Um, and I am liked by certain people, by a lot of people. What do you want me to do? What is my role in this? I just make videos. I make streams. I explain things in ways that people find agreeable. Um, I don't. I'm not engaged in any cult-like behavior. I don't shun any disagreement. In fact, it would be strange of me to have a cult of personality if I was like, openly friends with and talking to people who disagree with me on fairly major things. I stream with Prax Ben. I stream with Eduardo. Like I stream with these people who, like, if I was running a cult here, why the fuck would I do any of those things? I would be trying to have those people excommunicated for any slight deviation, but I don't do that. I haven't changed who I am fundamentally the whole time. And they were liking it before. I guess they just like the underdog. And it's hatred of the good for being the good. Envy, my friends. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, I put that to this individual. I said to him, so he was basically saying like there's this cult of personality around Zulu, and so I responded with, so is it the Orthodox Christian who is, teaming up with an atheist that's the cult of personality, or is it like the Kantians that are hanging out with an objectivist? Like, which of these people are like part of this cult of personality? Because I'm really not really seeing it. Like these people that disagree on like all these, as you said, quite fundamental issues of whether it's like ethics or where the universe came from, or just epistemology, or even the state. As you said, like Eduardo is, no longer an ANCAP. He believes in, well, I will say he's no longer an ANCAP in scare quotes, bearing in mind that his version of a state is basically like identical to a Hopi and Covenant community. But be that as it may, he doesn't self ID as an anarchist anymore. And yet, as you said, you do TikTok live streams with him. You've debated him in a friendly, non-hostile manner, and continue to do positive content. So yeah, look, I think just on that, I do think that there is like merit in having like a level of, what is it, skepticism towards, you know like anyone that rises up in like as some kind of leader within a movement. It's like, okay, let's cast a skeptical eye on this person and make sure that they're the sort of person we want leading our movement, because not doing that is how we've gotten into the place that we are. So by all means, like, yeah, look, if you're coming into the movement or you've been a part of the movement and you've just heard about Liquid Zulu, then yeah, look, I would say, yeah, be skeptical, and I'm hoping that Zulu would say the same. You should be skeptical of him, and then you would watch his content and almost like undeniably come to the conclusion that, oh yeah, this guy's been doing content for 5 years, very consistently pushing out the kind of same message with respect to liberty. He hasn't deviated or been a bellwether type that kind of grifts off whatever the popular sentiment is at the time. Yeah, this guy's trustworthy. Okay, I think that's a fair way to do things. So yeah, look, I think the cult of personality thing, I think as well, some of it came from the whole Zal Zulu thing, like the ZZ thing, which people were maybe uncomfortable with for one reason or another. And again, like, I get it, but at the same time, like, it's a fucking meme, bro. Like that's my thing. Is it's just a joke. like we're not actually doing some like hiling thing for like some like legitimate belief in Zulu as some kind of hero or whatever. Like it's a joke. It's a good little meme that, again, Zulu didn't even come up with. By the way, I wanted to check that you didn't come up with the Zyle Zulu thing, did you?
No, it was a, spontaneous. I believe I can't remember exactly how it started, but it was in the side chat on the premiere for this libertarian video. There's just a funny little like, yes, Al Zulu. That's funny, and people started saying it, and I embraced it. It was a very powerful meme. Now we've got all this mimetic potential used against people. It's like they're you know eternal losers. They just want to lose. It's like, okay, guys, um, we're in this new world now, where memes can spread so much faster than they could in the past. Sure, if we were doing this in the 1800s, it would probably be better to write up dissertations and so on and send paper responses back and forth. But that's not how things are now. Now we need a meme to be able to cut through um, the silence, but as rather cut through the noise. But on what you were saying before about, oh, I'm like grifting off of the Christians, I'm like grifting off this, because I was because what is even a cult of personality? I think it's a certain sort of grifter where they've managed to collect people under them, where those people will go along with that person no matter what the hell they say. Like Donald Trump, he has a cult of personality. Certainly, he could do literally whatever he wanted, and his supporters are going to go along with him, Mises Caucus included, I guess. But like, that's just not true. If tomorrow I came out as a Kantian, um, I'm sure I would lose a lot of objectivist supporters, they probably want to hear my argument for what the hell would have convinced me of that, but they wouldn't just immediately become Kantians. But I do want to go off of that a little bit, because I was also accused many moons ago of being a grifter, which is the softer form of cult of personality, I think. I was accused of being a grifter by what was his name again? Esoteric Entity. The guy who has here's the furry with the big hammer and it has logic written on it. And you can find that on my website under liquidzulu.github.io/against esoteric entity. You can find this article. Because he was basically just spreading lies about me, and I decided to write up a response. And one of the claims was that I'm a grifter, and it's like, okay, well, let's say that I am. Okay, well, how would I be able to create a
Laughing
sustainable grift?
at the Ben Shapiro background.
Yeah. But how would I be able to generate a sustainable grift off my opponent, off of my positions? Like I'm in favor of radicalism. I'm against religion. I'm against open borders. So you may be able to get those two together, but whoopsie daisies, I'm against Ted Kaczynski and all of environmentalism. I'm against IP, so the artists don't get their protection from AI. I hate Immanuel Kant. I love planned obsolete. Like, how do I? Please explain to me. I believe I know the person you're talking about. Explain to me how I can collect up my positions into a coherent grift, and then I'll make $1 million. I'll give you a cut. Don't worry. I don't understand how I'm supposed to. If I'm a grifter, I'm doing a very bad job at it, quite frankly.
Right.
Wait, did I say I'm
Yeah. No.
against open
Couldn't agree.
borders? I'm in favor of open borders.
I was like, well, that's an update. Yeah, let's hear. Let's go to Input Error now. He's popped his hand up. Yeah, please jump in, man. Go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Okay. um, yeah, so I just wanted to revisit the Chud the Builder thing. And so it's like it's absolutely a social norm here in America, at least. I don't know what it's like in the UK or Australia, but if you go up to like a black guy and you call him the N-word, you are absolutely looking for a fight. Like, I I kind of agree with, at least, in form, Dave's argument that yes, if you if you do that in America, you really don't have any recourse to say that you were not instigating, at least.
Well, so I will say on this particular case, um, I don't think that that's what actually happened. I think he was just walking out of a courthouse, um, and this guy came up to him. He's like, "Oh, are you going to say all that chimp out stuff to me?" Well, I'll show you. And then they had a bit of a ruckus there, and then it led to the altercation. Um, so I don't think it would apply here if that was the case.
Hmm. Well, all I read were the articles saying that like he walked by some guy in passing. I I didn't see the stream footage or whatever.
He wasn't streaming at the time. That's one point in his favor, is that he does that stuff on stream in order to get. I mean, it is Johnny Somali tier content. Let's be honest here. Um,
Yeah.
that he tries to rile people up on stream, but he wasn't even streaming at the time. The stream only started after the shooting had occurred.
Mhm. All right. Well, I didn't have anything else to contribute.
Cool. Yeah. Look, I do kind of agree. That if you did just walk up to a black guy in America and just start saying the N word to him, or like some phrase including the N word, like yeah, you're probably just that it probably does constitute that fighting words thing where it's like yeah, you can you can kind of be punched, not to the point of like killing them, but anyway, so just wanted to mention this. Obviously, I do in fact have a girlfriend. Just in case anyone was curious, We can establish that I do in fact have a girlfriend, and she did call me before, and that's why we had to make a new space. So, yeah, just clarifying, I do in fact have a girlfriend. But yeah, so following up, because we've been talking a little bit about Liberty YouTubers. So Judah asked me, or asked Zulu, sorry, about Mentis Wave. Before I let Zulu jump in on a question that was asked of him, I do want to, I guess, offer a defense of Mentis Wave slightly. Only like on the level of, because obviously, a while back, Zulu and I responded and were critical of his video on, restricted immigration and why he thinks it's justified, and where he basically lays out the Hoppian case. Um, I do want to say, like, in his defense, I still consider Mentis Wave to be a good YouTuber, with lots of good takes, that is worthwhile and has contributed has contributed positively to the libertarian movement. And I also don't, again, like I said with tax brass, like, people will say, oh, like, Mentis Wave just doesn't talk about libertarian theory enough. He talks about, culture war slop and whatever else. It's like, again, you should make the content that you want to make. And if it's engaging and enjoyable and consistent with the philosophy, like, broadly speaking, like, in the sense of like if you're doing gaming YouTubing streams as a libertarian, it's not violating the NAP. You're not advocating for violating the NAP by playing video games on stream. So it's fine. And if it's making you money and you enjoy doing the content, then do the fucking content. Like, Mentis Wave doesn't owe us content on libertarian theory. His channel can be whatever he wants it to be. So, like, on that level, I don't like. Yeah, it'd be great if Mentis Wave wanted to talk about libertarian theory. But if he doesn't want to, then I'm not going to be like, you have to, otherwise you're not a real libertarian. Anyway, I wanted to obviously. I suppose the question was asked of you, so I'm sure you want to jump in and contribute to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like when I was floating around the idea a while ago of making a video on flat Earth. I believe it was G was going like, "This is beneath you. Don't make that video. This is don't do that." It's like, well, I mean, and this happened on many other things before, where it's like, yeah, I don't actually owe anybody a particular video that they want, or to not make a video that they don't want me. It's my channel. I actually am in full control of this channel you're looking at this on right now, if you're watching on YouTube. It's my channel, and I get to make the videos that I want to make, and that interest me. And if that happens to be something that doesn't interest you, I don't know, then don't watch that video if it doesn't interest you. I mean, like, this is the thing, like, the whole AI art thing, like, that's not specifically on libertarianism. Like, do you want me to just turn into part of the problem, where every fucking video is only inside baseball for libertarianism? Like, no, that's not a good idea. The AI art video was very successful, and it's as far as I'm aware, still the definitive statement on AI art. I'm very proud of that video. So if I didn't ever step outside of my wheelhouse, well, then I'm never going to improve the channel. That's how YouTube works. And if you guys, if the EcoPsych guys, if they want to make videos on EcoPsych, I don't know, go ahead, do it. You go out there, you do these debates, you make the videos. I'm not stopping you. Like, go ahead and do it yourself. I don't owe you every, like, part of myself where I just become a communal channel, or else I'm a cult of personality. I've got to become the fucking communal bicycle, or else I'm clearly a grifter. Like, this is the level that we're at here.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. I think at the end of the day, like, the content that you are going to be successful with, first and foremost, has to be content that interests you to make. Otherwise, you're just not going to put the time and work in. Like, I'm sure someone you could like force yourself to make a video or two on something that you really didn't want to talk about. But in the long run, it's just not going to work out. So yes, obviously there's other factors involved. Like just because you yourself as the creator like the video doesn't mean that it's going to be successful or whatever. But it's certainly, I would say, almost a necessary component of any successful YouTube channel is going to be that you really enjoy making the videos. So, yeah, look, as far as Mentis Wave is concerned, I would like to see him come around on Borders, and I would like to see him again. I would love to see Mentis Wave do more libertarian theory videos. Again, that would be great. I think that'd be a positive thing for the liberty movement. But he doesn't owe that to me or to Zulu or to literally anyone else. And I think to your point about the AI art stuff, like I'm sure that that was a funnel for people to, they probably got introduced to your channel because they were interested in like an AI art video. And then, at some point you reference concepts about, the objectivist theory of aesthetics, and that, sends someone down the pipeline toward understanding, the broader philosophy of objectivism. Okay. That's how this stuff kind of works. So just because a video isn't directly related to libertarianism doesn't mean it can't be having a positive impact on the libertarian movement as a whole. Yeah.
I do want to warn you, Monhop. Chronic in chat has pointed out that you're now inches away from getting doxxed, as you are one of the few Generation Z men to have a girlfriend. So that narrows down about 12 people, I imagine. So you may have slipped up
Fuck,
there.
I'm in trouble. And also, she called me at that specific time. I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm in big. Well, and I'm a libertarian with a girlfriend. Like that's the other thing as well. Like there's a very limited supply of those individuals going around as well. Although, if she was Asian, that would probably expand the pool by a significant number. So, just to be on the safe side, her race is undetermined for all intents and purposes, so that we don't further dox ourselves here. You can always change your mind. Did you want to jump in at all? I seen you like, I don't know, did you pop your hand up there or something? Or
Oh no, I didn't. But yeah, I don't have much to say. Sorry, regarding this topic.
no, fair enough. I just saw you do an emoji or something, so I thought maybe that was a hand up, but no, that's all good. There was another question here. Never mind, I don't think there was. Impotera. Hello, did you want to jump in at all again?
Yeah, just on the point of kind of the importance of diversity, a silly word to use, but the importance of diversity in the type of content you make. That, one of the important, very vital aspects of objectivism is this idea of integrating, the entirety of your philosophy into, every aspect of your life. And I think it's good to reflect that in the type of content that you make, being able to show how your philosophy is realized in all these, diverse aspects, not just, in law and economics. So
Yeah,
I just thought that was a
it's also just like basically a division of labor thing. Like, we believe in division of labor. We don't believe that everybody is best suited to doing the exact same task, that everybody on Earth should read Atlas Shrugged every second week, and all they should do is talk about John Galt's speech in Atlas Shrugged. We don't believe that. That's nonsense.
right.
Like, yeah, it is, applying it to all sorts of different areas and aspects and seeing, what does this person specialize in? Oh, James Elias, he specializes in physics. He's trying to reinduce all of mathematics and physics. I might make a video on that at some point. It does interest me. I used to be very interested in mathematics. So like this is basic stuff here, and fundamentally, if the objectivist movement doesn't start adopting that type of attitude, then it will simply die out. There is no way for there to be innovation unless people are branching out and doing what interests them.
Peikoff, Dr. Leonard Peikoff had this anecdote about how he would speak with Rand about just these, seemingly inconsequential things, and Rand would go on these, tangents, these rants about how this all relates back to these, very foundational philosophical principles. And Peikoff would talk about how it was always like very, revelatory for him to see how everything was, unified in that way. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
that's
definitely.
and that's exactly what you expect out of philosophy, because our viewpoint is that philosophy comprises the broadest possible abstractions that one can make. So you'd expect it to be in some way applicable to literally anything: architecture, art. It's applicable, sports science. It's applicable to everything. Like, because you're always going to be relying on some philosophical premises there.
All right, why is everyone in the chat just absolutely grilling me at the moment? This guy said I thought Monhop was gay because of his accent. I don't know where the fuck that came from. Well, are all Australians gay or something? I guess we'd maybe struggle to reproduce down the line. I mean, it probably would be best for, society as a whole, like broadly speaking, if Australians were to, you know, die out at some point, because, most of us are pretty anti-liberty, so I don't know, it's sending me at the moment. But Liberty Hellas dropped something in where he said, libertarianism needs to penetrate the cultural layer along with the intellectual layer if we want to set the norm and get the normie backing eventually. Yeah, look, I think that discussing like culturally relevant issues is like just one funnel that we can use, like what I talked about, um, where we can get people into libertarianism because I don't know, a libertarian YouTuber like Zulu or Mentis Wave or Taxbrass talks about some cultural issue that's relevant to that individual, and then they watch it and that sets them down the pipeline. But I don't know if, like, I don't think really penetrating the culture, like, it in and of itself, like, I guess maybe on some level, like, you're kind of going to kind of have to in order to be relevant if we kind of perceive culture as being downstream of philosophy. I don't know, Zulu, what's kind of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we are doing an episode of The Remnant here where we're talking about a highly culturally relevant event which has transpired. Like, it's absolutely proper to use these sorts of things as a springboard in towards the more fundamental philosophy. And that's, back to the IR video. That's what I did there. I was just seeing a bunch of these video. I believe it was the first video by Steven Zapata. I saw it where he's like drawing some horrendous scene, where and he was making these bad arguments, and I was like, okay, well, I want to make a video responding to this. And then I started digging more, doing my research more, and I saw, oh my god, the whole anti-AI movement is imbibed with these like fundamental misconceptions about philosophy. So I know I'll make a video where I kind of use this very culturally relevant topic as a springboard into talking about, the objectivist theory of aesthetics and so on and so forth. Like, kind of addressing these fundamental errors, and that's what I tried to do with all my videos. With the Dave Smith video, I was pointing at the fundamental philosophical errors. I always like to dig down to the very core of whatever the issue is, and really, round it out as much as possible. This is so. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's fine for people. I will criticize like the neoprax for being culture warriors. But that's not just because they talk about culture war issues. Like, it's fine to talk about those issues when they're in vogue. It's because they are kind of driven by whatever the swings of the culture war are. And if the rightists on the culture war are doing something, then they've got to follow. It makes them into strategic cuckolds. That's my problem with what they're doing. It's not that they're just talking about whatever is culturally relevant, because that's fine. Obviously, relating back to the Mantis Wave thing, he does that a lot. He talks about whatever is culturally relevant, and that can be you can reframe those issues in libertarian terms and try to push people in that direction. That's fine. It's not the most fundamental step. The most fundamental step is changing the philosophy, but by to change the philosophy of the day, it's very useful to engage in those discussions which are culturally relevant. Certainly, all of the ancient philosophers did that. Like whatever issue is culturally relevant in regards to their philosophy, well, they would address it.
This discussion has kind of reminded me of a couple of things that have happened in kind of Libertarian Party shenanigans recently. So the first one was this Vermont Libertarian Party tweet, which I've been told this account is run by Archie Flower. Don't know if that's true or not, but the person that told me was pretty confident. But he put out this tweet, which is now in the top section of the space, which basically said that the LP would be better off had Ron Paul never been born. On net, the damage he's caused to the movement and the party vastly outweighs whatever good that can be claimed from his actions. This tweet got absolutely like one of the most brutal ratios I've ever seen, and deservingly so, because I think it's one of the worst tweets that's ever come out of a Libertarian Party account. Bearing in mind that there's a lot of really, really bad Libertarian Party accounts, but this was an absolutely brutal tweet, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, Zulu, first and foremost.
Yeah, so I was joined in on the ratioing of this tweet, of course, by saying disaffiliate the Vermont LP. Like, yeah, this is we always have to bear in mind that, hey, I know the neoprags were like the urgent threat for a while there. They were the urgent threat. But that doesn't mean that the old prags have gone away. And that doesn't mean that the old prags have improved. They were happening to make correct arguments because they were against the neoprags, and the neoprags were flaunting their pragmatism left, right, and center. But that doesn't mean that the old prags are somehow good.
Right, and I posted about this as well. Like I quote tweeted the post and said, and I've put that up in the thing as well. And I basically said that every once in a while an old prag pops up to remind us how shockingly evil they are. Just like we shouldn't confuse neoprags or liberty-minded conservatives for allies, we shouldn't confuse these troglodytes for friends because they dislike the neoprags. Yeah, look, as you said, it's not a case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. These people are basically, from my perspective, two sides of the same coin as the neoprags. It's the old prags and the neoprags. They are just the same kind of sorts of people that just have different, preferences for what side of certain cultural issues that they fall on. Which brings me into my second one. So the second thing I want to bring up. So there's a big debate recently, I think, around LP National, even where like some convention they like brought out a dress code, and as soon as you tell some libertarians that they're not allowed to like run around in a G-string or like literally naked at a convention, that they chuck a hissy fit. So Casimir actually put out an article which I read the other recently. It was quite good, where basically he points out that, like, look, in order to gather the remnant, we have to be willing to be taken seriously. And part of being willing to be taken seriously is having the proper aesthetics to go along with it. And that requires a level of decorum and a level of pride in your appearance when you are out in public. Like, I don't care, like, wear whatever the fuck you want when you're in your house. If you want to walk around your house as a man in a G-string and, lingerie, like, okay, whatever. But if you're out in public, okay, going to an event where you're going to be on stage in front of a large number of people, then it is absolutely relevant and absolutely important that the sorts of people that we bring to these events are the sorts of people that know how to dress properly. So again, I wanted to get your thoughts, Zulu, and then we'll throw to anyone else that's up here at the moment.
Yeah, no, I haven't actually. I didn't know there was an article, but I'll definitely read that. I'll ask Casimir to send it over, I guess, after the stream. Um, yeah, no, it I didn't realize this was gonna become a big thing. I just saw Ben Weir was tweeting like, "Oh, I'm putting forward a proposal to have a dress code." Like, okay, well that seems the heck is the space gone? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're good. I can hear
Oh,
you fine.
for some reason it just massively increased the padding on on the jumbotron, so everybody just
Oh,
dropped
that's
off.
because I added. That's because I added Casimir's article, and
Ah,
it shows an expanded preview.
I see.
Um, so I guess that's why I did that. But yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize this was gonna be a thing at all. I was just like, okay, well that seems whatever. He's gonna introduce a dress code, okay. But then all the leftist libertarians they started fucking freaking out about it. Which like, why do you care? And I saw there was one LP affiliate where they were saying like, I think it was LP Texas or something, where they're saying that this was going to be used. Actually, I can find this. Yeah, let's be clear: the dress code debate isn't about people dressing professionally. It's about forcing trans individuals to act a certain way or dress a certain way that they feel uncomfortable in, such as forcing a trans man into a dress. I mean, crazy man in a dress. That's quite absurd to me. Or a trans woman into men's attire. Like it's like, I mean, this is the mark of the culture warrior. Everything has to be reframed in some culture war issue. Um, like it just really it doesn't strike me as a big deal. Why is this? It's like when all like the leftists in America, they were constantly like throwing a massive hissy fit over Trump wanting to make like a fucking ballroom and clean up like the pool that they've got outside the Washington Memorial or monument, whatever it is. Um, like this, why did you care so much about that? Seems like such a non-issue. Like, come on, guys. There's Epstein files that are being unduly redacted. There's fucking war with Iran. There's all there are bigger there are bigger things at play here. Like, why do you care about a fucking ballroom or about a fucking dress code? What does it matter? It seems completely irrelevant to me. But yeah, no, they all got very very upset about the whole thing. But before we uh, do move on, I did have a super chat from Diego Amateur for 2,500 CLP. Thank you very much for that. I'm saying rightoids are saying suicidal empathy as a way to separate it from altruism, which is indeed correct and something that should be called out. Like, what is at the core? What is the core problem with all of these things? Well, it's in a lot of these cases altruism. That's the core problem. But of course, the conservatives and the rightists can't say that because Christianity is in favor of altruism, which is why it's very important for us objectivists to be banging that drum against altruism.
For sure. Chronic, what's going on, man?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
I was listening the whole time. I was gonna talk about art, but I guess I want to comment on the current topic, which is about like the dress
Dress code stuff.
codes,
Yeah.
the cultural war stuff. It's all kind of connected in a way. So like the thing about the Prags and like the culture warrior type specifically, right? The problem we have with them, and this is something that some Dave Smith fans didn't seem to understand, it's not that they are addressing the topic of the day and that's a problem. They need to be talking about the very core of legal philosophy. That's not what we said, and that's not the problem. The problem is that they take their cultural priors, their cultural desires, their ends as the primary, and then they are selecting libertarianism as a philosophy they think will help them achieve that, right? They are engaging in the philosophy of pragmatism, right? They're saying, I have these desired cultural outcomes, and I think libertarianism will help me achieve that. Therefore, I'm going to become a libertarian, which is not, but the problem is that they're not adopting the non-aggression principle as a principle. They're adopting it as a matter of convenience. And the moment they realize, wait a minute, the non-aggression principle means that the homosexuals can form their own covenant community, and I don't want that. I want them to be obliterated somehow, right? Then they won't be a libertarian anymore, right? Or likewise, the leftist is like, actually, it means that the scabs can go work for the union busting boss, and I, whatever, right? Like they just they're being prags, right? The problem isn't that they are addressing the problem of the day. The problem is that they are substituting the problem of the day as like a guiding light for what is true in the philosophy, right? And this, you can see this in the dress code problem, right? So the dress code thing, actually, no, this links through another point, right? Like libertarianism, the problem with the big tent approach is that you end up including not just pragmatists, but all these different philosophies which are just incorrect in different ways, right? And I think one of the big vulnerabilities of libertarianism is that by making it a like a thin project where all you have to agree on is the legal theory, by doing that, it leaves it vulnerable to being like subverted by different groups that are like have philosophical fundamental weaknesses, right? Or some anarcho-frogism that they're trying to import with them, right? So like you'll have the like left libertarians, and you might have someone who's left libertarian and they genuinely believe in the non-aggression principle, but they're also trying to import, trans rights as part of their program for libertarianism, right? When it's not necessarily like, or trans recognition in society, right? They're like, we need to recognize them, we need to help them, or we need to make them. You must believe in the trans ideology to be a libertarianism, to be a true libertarian, right? And that's not true. And so, I think something that's very useful about Zulu's project here, with integrating objectivism and libertarianism, is that with objectivism, you don't just have the thin legal theory. You also have a justification for why it's important to be truthful in other affairs and why it's important to be virtuous, why dress codes might be useful, right? You can explain, no, the reason for a dress code isn't because we want to oppress the trans people. It's because looking like a fucking slob is really stupid and bad and just not useful and etc. Right? You can actually explain why all of the why certain strategies make sense, why you should be virtuous in the rest of your life, etc. Right? You know what I mean? It's all connected.
It's just all connected, man.
Fuck, I shouldn't have said that at the end. Now I sound like a fucking stoner.
I was gonna say you fucking sounded like what's what's that character? The Big Lebowski. That's who I'm thinking of. It's just all connected, man. But yeah, Zulu, did you want to jump in at all?
Yeah, I mean, it is obviously correct what Chronic's saying here. Like, we're not just a movement of random ideas. And we need to recognize that. You can't. We have to be not really suspicious, and that's the problem with anarcho-frogism. Recognizing it as a legitimate ideology, because it's covering up what the actual ideology is. It's some other ideology than libertarianism, which is trying to style itself as libertarianism. It's not just I'm an anarchist and I like frogs, therefore I'm an anarcho-frogist. That's obviously the reductio case, but it's, I mean, Archie Flowers himself says that being racist violates the non-aggression principle. I mean, we can't allow these people to go around claiming to be libertarians, and they're saying that. They're not libertarians. They believe in completely incompatible things. That is not libertarianism.
Indeed, and it's worth distinguishing. It's worth distinguishing, like, the anarcho-frogist, as in the person who takes, frogism as their primary, and then is gluing on anarchism, is trying to grift off of the movement, right? They're like the real grifters, right? Anarcho-frogism. I see who is in the chat. What is anarcho-frogism? Anarcho-frogism would basically referring to anyone who's like taking anarchism, anarcho-capitalism, and trying to glue on their adjunct, right? Trying to glue in leftism as like, this is a core part of the project, right? This is something you have to be doing, or this is something that's like that you can't be a libertarian and racist, right? And so on. Like, but it's worth distinguishing that from someone who is an anarchist or libertarian and has some project that they want to achieve. Not that they're making it like a core part of it. Like, suppose like you have like a seasteader, right? The seasteader, they're not saying that everyone needs to be a seasteader, right? But they're saying I'm a libertarian, I'm an anarchist, and my strategy going forward, the one I'm trying to apply is seasteading, right? And so like that way, you can have the frogist, or like not even the frog, but then like the anarchist frog farmer who's like, my strategy is to make frogs. It's like, great, good luck, right? It's worth distinguishing those and thinking about them differently.
Yeah. So, and this is why. Well, I think because I kind of was contemplating, like, does this whole anarcho-frogism thing mean that I need to reconsider whether I should label myself a Hoppian. And I kind of realized that there's a lot of Hoppians that sit on either side of this kind of anarcho-frogism thing. Like for me, the reason why I call myself a Hoppian is because, I think that covenant communities would emerge, among other reasons. I think covenant communities would emerge as a way of resolving certain uninsurable risks that emerge from, just interacting with one another in society. But I don't treat like the goal of a covenant community as the primary, and like libertarian ethics is subordinate to that. Whereas I think a lot of Hoppians do that, either like intentionally or just by accident, or something of that nature, where they treat they treat like the covenant community as the end goal unto itself, and libertarian ethics is like the motivating reason for how we get there.
Exactly. Like the distinction you can make is like Hoppianism as like where Hoppianism as the end goal, or Hoppianism as the means towards meeting my conservative cultural values, or Hoppianism as the strategy towards enacting libertarianism, right? If it's this one, then libertarianism is just an instrument or like an adjunct towards me, I don't know, keeping the gays out of my house or whatever, right? Or alternatively, if you're a Hoppian because you think it's the ideal libertarian strategy, then you are libertarian first, and Hoppianism is your adjunct to that, right? And that makes sense that way, right? It's a trustworthy position.
And I think there's a connection here to something that this sort of styling themselves as libertarians that we're talking about. There's a connection here to where I've noticed that the old prags have for a while now tried claiming at various points that they coined the term neo-prag. So there's this tweet from LP Alliance saying that Zulu might recognize Amanda as the person who initially used the phrase neo-prag in her writing and appearances in Good Morning Liberty around November 2024. But I coined it in 2021. And then this one from Kyle Davis, where I ratioed the old Vermont LP tweet, and he's saying, well, they are neo-prags. It's like, well, somebody's responding that, well, I am, that Zulu's calling out the Mises Caucus and the old pragmatists. I'm saying that, yeah, I coined the term neo-prag as a descriptor for these people. And then Kyle Davis is claiming that I'm not the person who invented it. It's in fact been a term for paleos for literally decades. And of course, he has no evidence of this because I coined it. I'm the one who invented that term. And so they're trying to not just style themselves as libertarians. They're trying to like kind of wear the skin of the movement of radicals that we're creating here. They're trying to wear our skin and pretend to be us, and that they were the ones. So I think this is something to keep an eye on. That they're going to try and pretend that they were the big vanguard who was fighting against the neoprags this whole time. They're gonna try and pretend this. They're gonna try and keep pretending this, but it's fundamentally 0% true. I even asked. I was like, I was pretty sure that I coined it, but maybe somebody else had come up with that term independently of me. I even asked good old Grok about it. I was like, okay, well, look through the corpus of libertarian literature and find me the earliest instance of somebody using the term neo-prag or neo-pragmatist or any of those synonyms. And Grok said, well, actually, it was Liquid Zulu who invented that term. It's a relatively recent term.
It was this man.
Yeah, it was like, oh, wow.
I was gonna say,
I
bet there's a Rothbard essay, an unpublished, one single Rothbard essay where he used the term neo-pragmatist, be like, in the future we may experience an attack of the neo-pragmatist or something. But no, it's Liquid Zulu.
Yep,
he did it.
Correct, doing his best Jewish accent.
And I remember and the thing is, I remember the specific context surrounding why I chose that term. It was because I saw a point that Fabian Liberté was making about why oathbreaker is a good insult to use against police officers, and because they feel very strongly that they swore an oath and they care a lot about that. So you're insulting something that they care about. And at the time, the Mises Caucus cared a lot about not being pragmatist. So I was like, okay, well, you guys are being neo-pragmatists now. I was insulting something that I thought they cared about. But of course, then they just kind of stopped caring about the radicalism. That's the context surrounding why I chose that term. And
Dave Smith, we have always been pragmatists. Yeah, I've always been a pragmatist. I've always been a radical pragmatist. Meanwhile, literally in the Rothbard essay, it's like radical pragmatism is a contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, bro, it's ruined.
Yeah, I do have a couple of super chats to go through here, unless Monhop wanted to jump in on that at all.
No, go for it.
Yeah, we got one from yeah, I didn't miss any. And we got one from Metanally 4594 for $10 US. Thank you very much. Saying Zulu's AI art video was actually my introduction to Zulu and objectivism. Well, there you go. It turns out it works, you know, when you actually don't just talk about Israel for every single episode twice a week. Turns out it actually resonates with people. And then we got two from Danny Cat here. One for $5 Australian, one for $2 Australian. Thank you very much. Saying the dress code does say biological males shall not wear dresses, skirts, or other attire traditionally recognized as women's wear. Isn't that making it a culture war issue? Yeah, it seems that they're definitely that inclusion is definitely a culture war inclusion there. But I mean, it still seems like quite a non-issue to me.
I can defend that position on the grounds that like I said before, like you're either putting the culture war first or you're putting it as a subordinate to like libertarianism, in the sense that like if you're like saying I need to win the culture war and libertarianism is going to help me do that, then you're doing it backwards, right? But on the other hand, right, there's a perfectly reasonable view that like, okay, we're trying to make ourselves look like a serious movement, right? And there's a sense in which people do cross-dressing and they do it in a way that's very ugly and doesn't look very good. It's not even you don't even have to be like transphobic to put down that rule. It's like, no, I just want people to dress according to their biological sex, and if you have a problem with that, then like even if you're like a transgender person, this is the thing the problem I have with it, which now I'm gonna go into a tangent, but like there's a sense of like neuroticism there where like you can't put your immediate like neuroses aside to do something that's helpful to other people, right? Or helpful to your image, right? Which is, I mean, it's like that's like the most surface level analysis of like why the like this is against trans people argument doesn't carry any water here, right? It's because like, okay, let's say you are a transsexual, right? Or a transgender, right? You can't go boy moda for a day, really, to attend the fucking conference. You like you have no ability to make concessions to engage in a social context, right? It's antisocial behavior, right? In a real way, not in a like, you know, I'm a Kantian criticizing the objectivists for not sacrificing their own values. No, it's like, look, you're engaging in a social context, right? Which means that you have to engage on the terms set by other people. You have to look good, okay? That's it.
Yeah, it's like I think there wouldn't really be very much hatred towards transgenders apart from like, you know, fundamentalist religious people. If they just recognized the whole time that yeah, they're a little bit odd, and it's fine to be a little bit odd, you know. I'm a little bit odd myself. It's fine to be a little bit odd, but then, pardon me, it turned into like a movement, and that movement tried to force everybody to not see it as a little bit odd. That's where the problem comes in. Like, you know, I'm a little bit odd. I have odd hair. I wear odd clothes. If I was going into like a business casual event, then yeah, I'd get a goddamn haircut and I'd dress up in business casual clothing. Like I'd be able to put my oddness aside for a little bit. Like being eccentric itself isn't the problem. It's trying to push that eccentricity back onto the world and force them just to claim that the emperor has clothes when he actually doesn't.
Just quickly, I seen Roman Viking 95 put in the chat. What should I read first if I'm interested about to learn about libertarianism? I'd say the first thing would be, as Half Hippo said, Anatomy of the State by Murray Rothbard. Then the second thing you should read is Liquid Zulu's course. If you look up Liquid Zulu libertarian course on Google, you'll find it, and you can read it, and it's very good. And you will be an expert. You will be such an expert on libertarian theory by that point that you'll know more about it than people who have apparently been libertarians for like a quarter century at this
Yeah,
point.
you'll beat Dave Smith in a debate. Roman Viking
Exactly.
95 is a very Hyperborean username. But okay, I actually want to expand on the recommendation list. Like Anatomy of the State, pretty good, like the short, easy one. There's a fiction book called The Ethics of Anarcho-Capitalism, which Zulu read, and that was like I think one of the ones that turned him. It's a really good one. What else? That was a good one. My favorite economics book is How to Think About the Economy, by Per Byland, which is it compresses
Great fucking book, by the way. Really good book.
It's the best part about it, right? Like if you want to read human action, right? That book is 900 pages long. It's really, really thick. It's really Mises is like an Austrian writer. He can't help but going on a million tangents, right? Per Byland is the opposite. He's like, I'm going to make every word count. It is a very, very efficient book, right? How to think about the economy. And that's the best part about it, right? So it really like gets you in on the Austrian economics, like ground floor, like, oh, this is everything like that makes sense. Everything that's the core of the knowledge and the methodology there, right? What else is useful? I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. No, I think that's pretty much it. In terms of like videos, Zulu has Anarcho-Capitalism, The Solution to Law, which I think is still pretty decent. I think the argument there might be a bit dated. I think Zulu probably might do something different if he made it again this time, but like I don't think there's anything wrong with that video. And it pretty much like gets you situated on the more modern arguments for the non-aggression principle, which is pretty good.
Yeah, on the Solution to Law video, yeah, probably is a little bit dated. I would definitely do it in a different way these days. Pardon me. A more up-to-date sort of, at least it integrates a lot of the same stuff, version of that video is my second response to Tick history. And by the way, you can just watch. Tick has on his channel playlist of our back and forth. I would say, watching through that in your free time, whenever you got time to do it, wouldn't take you too far astray. And my second response to him is Anarcho-Capitalism Responding to the Critics, which is the pinned video on my channel now. Which that integrates my entire argument for the NEP. It goes over all sorts of different areas. I think it's a pretty good video. If you're interested in that thing, and if you're interested in the inside baseball stuff, then that's where the celebritarian video comes in. If you want to understand why we have to be radicalist.
Super chats here for you, Zulu. Do you mind if I read these out, or do you want to? Is it contractually necessary for you to read them out? Would it be a violation of the NAP?
Nope, go ahead. I don't have any particular specific written promises that I will read it out. So yeah, go ahead.
Someone told me recently that I should start reading out audiobooks and like recording because I have a nice voice for that apparently.
You do.
But I don't know. But, okay, let's see.
To be fair,
you do have a nice voice for that.
But I will warn you,
not to get too homo, but
I have recorded for long sessions before, and it can be a bit of a slog.
Yeah. So okay, let's see. We have Giga Grug for $10. He says, "Ever consider doing a video on Academic Agent? He's got videos on why he's no longer a libertarian and is one of the more refined voices in that space. Think it could be an interesting one. Thanks." I'll let Zulu comment. I mean, it's directed to him.
Chronic, are you planning? No, I mean, I'm certainly open to the idea of doing that. I believe he's in the UK as well, so we can maybe debate.
You meet up, have a live argument.
Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, no. That's definitely
just make sure not to call him the N-word. I've heard that ends badly for people.
No, I think Academic Agent is probably one of the few people who would be cool with it. He'd be like, "Yeah, no, I get it." Maybe, I don't know. Oh, okay. The second super chat here. Actually, I'll comment. I think I've watched a few of Academic Agent's videos from the past and like recently, and it seems like there's something. I don't want to insult him, but there's something about him where like he doesn't seem to like absorb anything he reads, even though he reads a lot, right? Like there's I think you covered something he said on intellectual property when you're doing an intellectual property video, where he was like, actually, it seems like the Austrian school doesn't know anything about intellectual property because it lets you protect the value of some franchise or whatever. And like you completely bodied him, because like apparently, despite everything he's read, he hasn't absorbed the argument, right? He didn't absorb or understand it, right? So that's my take on an academic agent. It's probably worth maybe discussing him or having a conversation with him. But I also see that he seems a little bit arrogant on Twitter. I don't know. I'm also being a little bit uninformed when I speak about him. I haven't looked at him very closely. Okay, so we had the second super chat here by not Letis for $4.99 US. I've been thinking about making vids. Any gaps in SnakeTube you see that need filling? I have a good amount of video ideas, but I'm curious what you think. Let me think. I actually have thoughts on this, so I'm gonna zip in and steal this from Zulu. In terms of what's missing from SnakeTube, or like not just SnakeTube, but like libertarian movement. One thing I think the libertarian movement could really use is artists, right? Like
Well,
artistic.
we have a lot of those. We have a lot of those. Oh, you meant artists. Sorry.
Yeah, not autists, bro. I saw that joke immediately, right? No, people like we should be producing. We should be like that. I think something that people miss is, well, I don't think people miss it, but like people forget. I mean, Ayn Rand knew this, and she explicitly said as much. Like, art is concretizing your philosophical worldview in a way that it's very instantaneous and apparent to people, right? People are moved by artwork, right? Artwork inspires people's beliefs, especially when they're very young, when like a high-minded intellectual argument doesn't work on people, right? But if you see like a movie where like heroic behavior is depicted, people immediately resonate with that, even if they don't have the language to facilitate that, right? And I think that the libertarian movement is very lacking in artistic talent and artistic aspiration, and so that would be a good thing.
Jokes are just jumping off the page at me right now. I'm not gonna lie,
bro. What else we need? Well, I think Man Sharma talked about this, and so did James Elias. Or Elias isn't in like our sphere, but like different like spheres of theory that are like downstream of objectivism, particularly could be interesting in seeing. For instance, like doing like a theory of psychology, or like different adjuncts that are like scientific with an objectivist basis. And I think that would be very interesting, because there's obviously lots of people who are studying and doing special interest stuff, and getting like an objectivist voice in those spaces who isn't like insane or like always like not gatekeeping, because gatekeeping is good. I mean like a Randroid who's like forcing people to accept Ayn Rand, peace be upon her, right? But like still putting forward the objectivist position in a comprehensible and attractive way. Because the way Inductica does it, James Elias, he doesn't like preach at you, say like Ayn Rand, peace be upon her, stated the true principles of epistemology and metaphysics, and that is how we know that the world is actually an elastic solid ether, right? He doesn't say that. He puts forward a position that is like criticizing the existing state of science, and then putting forward the idea that this is actually a better approach, right? And this is actually more valuable. This is like a more truthful way of approaching it, right? And that's very attractive. I think that's a very good argument. It's very hard to criticize James Elias for being like crazy or like dogmatic, right? He doesn't seem that way. So likewise, I think something like that would work. And then, I mean, if you want to be like Fabian Liberty or like Zulu, and you want to do theory and connecting with people on streams, it's pretty good. I've yapped on this super chat for too long. Zulu, what do you think?
Yeah, no, so definitely if you've got like some particular interest, obviously James Elias is very knowledgeable on physics and mathematics. In fact, whenever I see something which is, pardon me, which is alleging something about physics or the history of physics or what have you, I'll like DM James and I'll be like, hey, what's up with this? You know, I saw a tweet the other day where Aristotle's physics wasn't actually wrong, it was right within a certain context, which is something which the objectivists say about Newton. Newton wasn't actually disproven by general relativity. He just didn't have the full context. He wasn't talking about the context of going near the speed of light or being next to a black hole. He was only talking in the context of the things that he was able to observe. And so he was right in that domain. And I would say if you don't have like some particular thing which you're interested in getting expertise in like that, one space which I've been trying to move into for a while, but stuff keeps getting in the way, is media analysis. There's been a gap in that ever since that Fee show stopped. I can't remember the name of it.
The Andor video essay.
Yeah, the Andor video essay, which I still do have the assets for. So very well, I'm gonna try and make it at some point. It's just obviously not striking the fire while it's hot any longer.
I have lots of media analysis stuff that I want to do at some point. I might get around to it once I do the arrow of regression video and the one-way
Yeah.
speed of light video. Then I'll do the Last Samurai and why it's evil from an objective perspective, and then I'll do and so on. Right? Like I have to do my studies.
Anarcho-capitalism is just one video essay away. You just fucking hurry up, man.
I'm the one who's holding the whole project up. If I could just get off my ass and make 3 videos, we could take over the world tomorrow. But no, I have to go study my fucking software engineering bullshit.
You know, like that the big benefit with media analysis videos is you're already kind of latched onto something which is very popular. Like I was floating around the idea in my head of doing a video on that Superman movie and why I think it's a very good depiction of Superman on objectivist terms. I didn't pursue it super heavily because I was worried about copyright claims. Because I know that Chiada of Mercia, nay Anglo libertarian,
PC upon him.
yeah, I know that he did a video was on Doom, or June rather, and he got some copyright issues with that. But it looks like they did get resolved, so I might pursue that at some point as well. But like that, then if it's like some big thing that everybody's already talking about, then you can provide your own perspective on it. I mean, leftists do this all the time. That's what they're always talking about. Like, oh, you need media literacy, and media literacy means that you accept the leftist worldview. Or else you don't have media literacy. Like throwing some more voices in that.
Media literacy.
Yeah, throwing some objectivist voice in that space certainly isn't a bad idea, and you can get very profitable from it.
I think there's actually like there's a view like I think this ties back into the view of like the issue of the day where like there's people who are like, well, if you start talking about media analysis and you're trying to inject your politics into it, people won't like it. Either like your libertarian fans won't like it because you're like not talking about the theory directly, and then the people who are like not libertarians who stumble into your video are gonna be like, this guy's stupid, right? And that argument doesn't really carry any water because like I said before, if you as long as you're not compromising your principles, so you can talk about Andor, if that's even possible to compromise your principles somehow there, right? And also that then you're not really gonna have a reason to piss off the diehard theory heads in your crowd, right? And then on the hands of the people who are just joining you because they like Andor, right? Of course, there's going to be a number of like leftists or people who already have like an inbuilt theory, and when you speak to them, they're going to get pissed off. But also, there's a level at which where because you're talking about media, there's a sort of defense system that people like they drop their defense system, like where they're like they stop evading as much. And when you start talking about the media or like some kind of fictional thing, they'll start to evaluate your argument from a new like actually a more open-minded perspective, right? And you'll actually be able to catch a lot more people. And then obviously there's people who don't really have like an existing ideology, and so the fact that you analyze Andor through the worldview of Rothbard isn't going to bother them, right? Yeah, that's my view.
Speaking of which, reminds me, we were talking about Mises before. Quick Mises anecdote. First ever book I read by Mises wasn't Human Action. It was actually Socialism, which is an equally voluminous and difficult book to read. And I got about like 10% of the way through, and he started talking about like how socialists have bad sex. And I was like, what the like Mises, like, you see, and the point of me saying this is like you can talk about whatever the fuck you want and connect it back to libertarianism as far as I'm concerned. If Mises was like 10% of the way through discussing the pitfalls of socialism, and he was explaining why socialists have bad sex, and like genuinely look it up, it's a key part of that book where he starts talking about like how the socialists have it all wrong when it comes to what's required for a good sex life. So
I
it's
can't
definitely
believe I
worth a
haven't read
read.
that book yet. Jesus Christ.
Oh, there's something else I wanted to hit on. Oh yeah, so someone asked, what is this space about? My answer to that is this space is about how Thomas Massey got removed from the Republican Party via a primary, and if you can't connect that back to what we're talking about right now, then I just can't help you. You
You
just
just need 250 IQ to
Yeah,
like
it's a
make the
very
connection.
simple through line from Thomas Massey into socialists having bad sex. It's very straightforward there.
It's quite shrimple, really. Oh wait, we actually still have like 2 more super chats to read out. So let me put us back on track here. So we have Huge Hat Harold for $9.99 US. Who will win the epistemology debate? The grand Zamanda of the Zuluftwaffe or the great Kantian Khan? I'm gonna let Zulu feel that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've interacted with this kind of breed of Misesian Kantian before, and it strikes me that they don't actually have any. They like to kind of throw to the side some of Kant's more controversial takes, controversial in epistemology. Not that he like hated black people or anything. I don't care about that. But like, they kind of brush it off and say like, no, Kant was the true Aristotelian. You don't get it. And if you don't think he's an Aristotelian, then you just didn't read him enough. It's like, okay, well, actually, I did read Groundwork. I read it front to back. It was the most boring book I've ever read in my entire life. So I have read Kant, and no, I still come away with the exact same impression of him. That yeah, he does believe in these crazy things like how you can't know the noumenal world, and like you can just run down these kind of lines of inquiry with them, where it's like, okay, so what actually is the noumenal world? Does it exist? And it's like, well, yeah, it exists. Well, actually, no, existence refers only to the phenomenal, so you can't use that. So what is the noumenal world? Is it things in themselves? Oh, actually, no, things that implies quantity, that's phenomenal, so that's out. Is it? Can you say it's something out there? No, because thing that implies identity and existence. So nope, you can't say it's a thing. Can you say like X out there? I don't even know how to refer to it any longer. Can you say that X out there somehow
Blob.
causes something to happen in your brain? Nope, you can't say that because causality is also phenomenal. So you just have to run down this exact line that lands you in Hegel, and all of a sudden, like, it's inevitable. Like they can't dodge and weave around it for forever. Like this is not Aristotelian in the slightest. Like, so I've got a couple of attacks like that I think I can run, which I don't think he'll be able to deal with particularly well.
Okay.
So, what do
very
you think about this? Because I was having this discussion with a couple of Kantians, including our good friend Eutychus, who we obviously had a bit of a debate with on the blue versus red button on the last episode. So they were basically talking about how argumentation ethics is like necessarily Kantian, like it's inherently Kantian. Like you can't use an argumentation ethics style justification without presupposing sort of Kantian metaphysics around like transcendental categories and whatnot. Like, do you? I'm assuming
You
you're going to
believe that?
disagree with that, Zulu. Like, what kind of? Do you have a particular take on that at all?
Yeah, no, it's the idea. I mean, the idea that the argument, by the form of he's contradicting himself, therefore he's wrong. Like that. First of all, it wasn't even invented by Hoppe. Um, it certainly wasn't invented by Kantians. Like, this is an argument which has happened throughout the history of philosophy. They don't get to then just claim that entire structure of argument and say, no, this is fundamentally a Kantian argument because they heard a Kantian making it with his own particular Kantian spin on it. It's like, no. I can't remember the exact situation, but I believe that someone found Leonard Peikoff making a very similar point to argumentation ethics at one point. Like, this is not a purely Kantian position. Like, you don't get to just claim that as your own.
Yeah, the argument that you could not consistently hold this position, like X position in an argument, has been used by Rothbard. It's been used by Mises. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure in human action, right? Like if you contest the action axiom, you have to do so by acting. Therefore, you have to accept the action axiom. That's the argument from the argument that you can't argue against the action axiom, right? And the argumentation ethics is a similar species of argument in that, like, you could not argue that we resolve this dispute by not arguing, right? Or that we resolve this dispute by violence, specifically, right? You cannot resist, right? You cannot argue for the aggression principle in this argument because you presuppose that we should not be aggressive towards each other because you want to argue about it, right? That is what argumentation ethics is, right? Like the very core of it. And I think it's worth thinking about the place of argumentation ethics in the like structure of the objectivist like theory of like jurisprudence, the anarcho-objectivist jurisprudence specifically, right? Like because obviously Hoppe is like a Kantian, like metaphysically, like epistemically, right? Like that's his framework, right? So that's the framework he wrote AE under. But if we're going to recognize that, okay, there's clearly something to this argument that is not just right, like we're appealing to the noumenal phenomenon. I don't care, right? Whatever, right? There's clearly an argument here that carries some water. It's worth thinking about what it actually means, what it actually establishes, right? And people, I think mistakenly, I think no mistake, like there's a mistake in which the view that argumentation ethics is the groundwork for the NAP, right? And I think people have taken that because they didn't have objectivism, right? We didn't have objectivism at the time, so we're like, well, the AE definitely establishes something in that, like, there's no place where you could consistently argue, like in any given dispute, that you want to not argue about it, right? So definitely establishes something that is like across the set of all disputes. If you want to resolve it without fighting, then the non-aggression principle is the only option, right? But it doesn't necessarily establish that the non-aggression principle is right, like correct, right? Because if you just chose not to argue in any case, then you would never fall into contradiction, right? So it's about your performance, right? But if you suddenly take the objectivist jurisprudence and you attach it, then you can see that, like, well, these disputes, like the way you're supposed to resolve them, there's a particular way that's proper to human functioning on how you're supposed to resolve disputes, right? And so argumentation ethics kind of, I'm not sure where it fits in there. I think it's worth studying.
So what I think AE does, argumentation ethics, is it establishes that there aren't multiple different sorts of peaceful, civilized norms that you could choose from, and now you've got to evaluate which one's correct. It establishes that no, either it's peace or war, and peace means the non-aggression principle. Those are your only options. So now those are the options we got to evaluate between. Because it just kind of cuts through all the noise of like, oh no, I've got my own particular idea on mixed law. I've got my own particular, like, no, all of those resolve into either peace or war. Which one will it be?
Either we're killing each other or we're not killing each other today. That's the truth. A is A. We're either A or non-A today.
I will just head to the whilst you guys discuss further. I'm just going to go BRB real quick.
Well, I might read the next super chat here. I might keep going.
Yeah, I think the next one is like very related to you anyway. So
it says something about being able to attract artists. So I might answer this one very, very well. Let's see. Zach attack, is that Senor or Senior? Zach attack Senor for $5 to attract artists simpler than you think. Libertarians spend more than the average person on art and literature than the average person. Yeah, I think I agree with that. So I think the view here is essentially like libertarians, they tend to spend more on books. They spend more time reading. Obviously, generally more intelligent people and more cultured, which I think is true, right? Like if you're enough that you want to be a libertarian, right? There's obviously some kind of intellectual streak in your brain, and that tends to correlate with wanting to read more or like just more interested in media and artwork and stuff.
Which, to be fair, is true across like anyone that's like a staunch advocate of a particular political philosophy.
Yeah,
like most people are
like,
just, as we say, like most people are like the sheep. Like they're not politically active in any like real sense. So the subset of people that are, whether they're fucking communists or libertarians tend to have those traits as well, to be fair. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right for libertarians as
I
well.
agree. So I agree. I think the thing I'm recognizing here is that it just seems to me that this might just be a function of the size of the libertarian movement as compared to, like, I don't know, like leftism, which is like, you know, a gigantic, not a monolith, but like a gigantic movement, right? And there are tons of like leftist artists you can find online. And actually, this is one thing I want to complain about, like artistry, the fine arts as a movement, like not as a field, seem to have been completely abdicated to leftism. And I think it's partly a consequence of the philosophy that is promulgated in artist schooling and like in artist communities, right? It's that, like, you know, whatever art art is whatever you want it to be, unless it's not progressive, in which case it's evil, right? art can be whatever you want unless it's racist. That's kind of what it is, right? Right? You can tear down any barrier you want unless it's about saying slurs. Right? Right? So on the right wing, there's like it's
Art is supposed to push boundaries except for my boundaries.
Exactly, right. I think there's actually a phrase that is repeated by artists a lot of the time. It's art should disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed, right? That's their worldview, right? Their worldview is that you should transgress against people who aren't transgressed upon, but if you're the victim group, then you should be comforted by art, right? That's basically their view, which is really it kind of disgusts me a little bit, which is in the sense that, like,
Well, it's certainly very convenient because, like, you could just arbitrarily choose like who is part of the group at any given moment.
Yeah, who's the victim group and who's the you need to. It is Marxist, right? It's fundamental, like it's Marxist in the sense, like, you just swap out comfortable and disturbed for oppressor and oppressed, right? Art should disturb the oppressor and comfort the oppressed. There you go. It's Marxism, right? And like so basically, it seems to me that the arts are very much a leftist like stronghold, and that it's not just the libertarians need to do it. Like the general right wing. I think if you spend any time like listening to Dave Green or people in that milieu, they will lament how the arts are very much a leftist like stronghold, and how they want to get right wing art created, right? And you'll see left wings that are like, artistry is a fundamentally left wing endeavor. That's why there is no right wing art. Is that they'll say that, right? And then you'll be like, here's Starship Troopers. And like, and then it's like showing the Bible to a vampire, like, you know, right? Fuck. You know what I mean? Okay, so to get around to the super chat again, I think you're right. Like, I mean, the problem is that it's not that libertarians aren't willing to spend money on art. It's that we don't have enough artists who are libertarian, like in philosophy and ideology, particularly objectivist, right? Which is really weird given the emphasis that Ayn Rand put on aesthetics. Although it's not like she said like all objectivists must now pursue the fine arts, right? Also, objectivism as a movement did not become very viral because of the whole Randroid situation. But hopefully we can rectify that and we can take over the fine arts once again. I saw Zulu wave his hand. Is that him trying to say he's come back, or did he want to speak?
Yeah, I think he was just letting us know that he's back
Yeah.
on deck and can answer questions.
Okay. Let's see. What's next? We have a super chat from Giga Grug, $5 US. Brad Bird's films are very Randian, and they're some of the best animated films ever made. Incredibles and Iron Giant, for example. I think I agree with that. The Incredibles, I recently watched The Incredibles again with some friends of mine, and it's really struck me how much that was a movie about like tall poppy syndrome, right? How like the superheroes of society, they had to shrink themselves away because they made everyone else feel inadequate, right? And also because they were too good. They were hated for being good. They were hated for being brilliant, right? And Syndrome is like he is like his fundamental motivation as a character is envy, right? He envies the superheroes, right? And how what the attention they get, right? And it consumes him. And obviously there's other parts of that movie. I don't think I don't know Brad Bird if he's literally an objectivist, but I think there's definitely other philosophical currents in that movie. But it's definitely a good movie, like a heroic thing. I would show it to my kids whenever I get them, whenever I have kids, But
Whenever you get them, are you picking them up in the mail next week or what?
The stork's going to drop them
well,
off.
we're doing.
Let's close this
kids.
off with having a discussion. We're explaining to Chronic how babies are made.
Well, don't they come from a stork?
They do indeed. But like I completely agree on The Incredibles. It's very it's a very heroic movie in the sense that we would agree with. Like you see how the altruism kind of trods down these heroes and makes them into makes them depressed and everything. And then when they finally, the whole arc is learning that no, it's good to be heroic. It's good to be a hero. And you get this with a lot of comic book stuff, probably due in a large part by the fact that, Ditko was a literal objectivist. Steve Ditko, who of course invented Spider-Man, among other things.
I see in the chat we have Minion, who's a friend of mine. He's talking about the main obstacle you'd have with attracting artists to ANCAP spaces is removing their psychological need for intellectual property. I think that's actually one of the easiest things. Like a lot of artists, they do fan art, right? The IP thing is like a living contradiction in the artist's mind, where if it's fan art, then IP is evil, but if it's AI, then IP is good, right? And that living contradiction is really easy to stab them in it until they cry, right? Which is not the best way to convert someone to ANCAPistan. But the other thing I would say is that I don't think they specifically need to fall into ANCAP, like the legal theory, right? It's more important that actually to convert the artists to to the objectivist aesthetics than it is to convert them to the ANCAP jurisprudence, right? Obviously, we can kind of flow into that, but I think it's much more important that they make artwork that reveres the truth and virtue of humanity rather than and also motivates them to think critically or objectively about life and the situation and not be neurotic, awful people all of the time. This is something about artists, right? I think everyone here who speaks with an artist on Twitter or whatever, and sees them posting, especially if they start posting about their politics, they're some of the most insufferable, awful human beings ever, right? They're some of the people who are the quickest to celebrate people like Luigi Mangione, like the guy who murdered the healthcare executive, right? They're one of the first people out here to march out and post he's the hero or whatever, right? They're like the vanguard of the leftist cultural hegemony, and that is why it's so important for us to become to establish ourselves in the fine arts, right? And make our hegemony, right?
I do want to just on this point, I do want to shout out Anonymous Mike on YouTube, who has a lot of famous animations, and this one has 7.5 million views. And if you go down into the description, you notice that he has the exact same copyright disclaimer that I put in my videos, because he actually reached out and contacted me and he said, yeah, I converted him away from intellectual property. And yeah, now he completely, all of his videos are now totally disclaimed of all copyright. So it's not, and he's still clearly very successful. So it's not like you suddenly become
Anonymous Mike.
Yeah, it's not like you suddenly become a penniless, schlub when you cast off IP as an artist. You can still be a very successful artist.
Yeah, he's great. And I think Anonymous Mike, and you'll notice if you ever speak to Anonymous Mike, he's not insufferable. He's actually a very pleasant person to speak to, and I think it's just a vindication that if you don't adopt leftism to your core of your personality, you just don't become an awful person. It's so
fucking true. Does anyone have anything else I want to touch on before we close this thing off?
I mean, the other thing is I'm also trying to. I'm an aspirant fine artist.
I see. Zara Liberty did just wave his hand, so jump in, man.
Yeah, hi. Everyone hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about pinging about the speaker thing. My Twitter was going insane. I just wanted to talk about real quick. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, since you're not in America, but Republicans are doing redistricting efforts and trying to gain more secured houses in the seats, or secured seats in the House. And I was thinking about libertarian strategies on how they can almost implement their own Thomas Masseys into their races, because Thomas Massey isn't really libertarian. He's just slightly more free market than the next Republican. And he's been kind of absorbed as like our guy. Like, I wouldn't say he's exactly as libertarian as Ron Paul might be. Kind of what we were talking about earlier with the Vermont LP. But I think it's definitely a strategy that we can use to kind of run spoiler candidates at the very least. Someone who's like more interested in the Libertarian Party against the Republicans, because like recent votes with Thomas Massey is the kill switch in the cars that Congress wanted to enact, and he was very vocal against that. So even having someone pick apart these bills, and even if they're not able to get anything or like actually do anything about it, just having one person be like, hey, this is like, they're doing this is bad, might not be a terrible strategy for libertarians to take advantage of, at least right now, considering we have no one that's really on our side in the US House. I don't know if we count Rand Paul, because he's more of a conservative than a libertarian now.
Sorry, I was dealing with something on Discord there. Can you give like the upshot of like what the strategy should be? I wasn't paying enough attention, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Republicans are expanding their ability to gain seats in the House. Libertarians should run or make their message heard, kind of like how Thomas Massey was doing, and try and filter out that worse candidates, I suppose. I'm not trying to do like a pragmatist, like, oh, this is the next most important election. We have to get rid of all of our values for this one guy who's like said free markets are neato. But all I'm saying is, like, if they're gonna expand what they already have, might as well throw a couple people in there, because running as a libertarian party against Republican and Democrat has resulted in zero net gains for anyone.
Well, it's definitely not.
So the run is Republican strategy for libertarianism. I think I'll let Zulu go on that one. He knows what to say about that.
Yeah, so it's not inherently a bad idea to run as a Republican. The layer against your name doesn't really matter. What matters is, are you compromising in a bad way? Obviously, Chronic can expand on that with his arrow of regression analysis. The question is, are you actually pushing forward libertarianism? Because obviously, you know, if tomorrow Ron Paul was announced as the president after Donald Trump resigns or whatever, this would be a very good thing for us, even though Ron Paul is a Republican. Because he's not, because Republicanism isn't like a particular philosophy. Now, often this run as Republican strategy does come along with a lot of pragmatists. So you have to be careful that they're not just being a pragmatist who won't achieve anything worthwhile ever.
I guess I'll elaborate on the arrow of regression thing. Specifically, what I would say is there's two like, the arrow of regression is a very limited application, and I'm going to make that more clear in the video I'm going to make eventually, right? It's specifically when you're analyzing the policy arguments and policy positions that people are putting forward, right? You're analyzing the argument they're making and whether that argument comes from a libertarian framework, whether that argument justifies the state or it doesn't justify the state, right? So if someone's arguing that, you know, we should reduce the taxes by 50% because taxes are illegitimate, and ideally we'd have 0%, but this is what I think I can pass through the House, then you should support that person. Like, you should advocate that, like that the politician who's arguing that, you should say that guy's a good, he's one of our guys, right? Because even though he's only reducing the taxes by 5 or 25 or 50%, right? He's not going all the way to Ancapistan. He is putting forward the idea that Ancapistan will be a good thing, right? And that we should advance towards it, right? Whereas the argument that like we should reduce taxes by 20% because it'll increase the government revenue because of the Laffer curve, that is not a libertarian argument, even if reducing the taxes by 20% would be a good thing, right? So in that case, you shouldn't say that that politician is our guy, right? But you can say, I'll vote for that guy because I want the taxes reduced by 20%, right? So those are two different, like, those are two distinct things, right? There is a sense in which, like, I do approve of like strategic voting. Like, if you have two politicians available to you, and one of them is going to bomb every country in the world, and the other one is only going to bomb 7 countries in the world, and he's going to reduce the taxes by like 3%. Like, the second guy, he's not a libertarian, right? He's not arguing from libertarianism, but you can say that it would be better if there were fewer countries bombed and like fewer taxes, and I'll vote for that, right? But there's a sense in which you don't want to pollute the message of libertarianism, right? You don't want to say that guy is the libertarian candidate, right? And so likewise, if we're talking about libertarians running as Republicans, I think that's okay. I think that's that's definitely a possibility in order to like steal votes or to pressure Republicans to capitulate to libertarian demands and libertarian ideas and rhetoric, right? Because if you're able to put pressure on their electoral process, then you're able to add a selection pressure, right? Where like the more libertarian Republicans will get in, and that'll be a good thing, right? Yeah, I think that's basically what I have to say about that.
Right, absolutely. I pretty much like dub it just the Ron Paul strategy, where like even though Ron Paul did not win, and that's obviously very sad, he was able to get up on that debate stage because he ran as a Republican in the Republican primaries, and his speeches are a big part in why a lot of Americans are libertarian, because I saw him in 2008 and 2012 just on there talking about libertarian values, and he didn't say things like, "Oh, we should, decrease the tax rate because it will, incentivize businesses." Like, he came out there saying the income tax was unconstitutional because the government does not own your money, or we should abolish the FBI and CIA because they're inherently corrupt and meddling in other affairs, and they're the piggybacking off of the destruction of the inflated currency. So having him go up there and talk about actual libertarian values has done pretty much wonders for the actual party itself. And I know Vermont Libertarian Party would disagree with that, but there's a very big part of how many people are libertarian today because of Ron Paul, and his efforts are something to be commended.
For sure. And in a nice little full circle moment for us, I would say that not having the biggest loss for the actual liberty movement with Thomas Massey being primaried is not the fact that he wasn't going to vote on the next, send $1 bajillion to Israel bill that'll get passed anyway, whether he votes for it or not. It's not having someone on that stage to say the things that we want people to say. It's not about any one individual policy. So, on that note, are there any other super chats or anything else we need to read out, or are we all good?
We did have one last super chat from Totem Music KBN for $5 Thank you very much. Saying that Chronic is living in an Ancapistan in his head, and for thinking that babies come from stores. So, unfortunate for you there, Chronic. You're going to have to get dethroned here.
Oh, we can't have babies from the baby store in Ancapistan. This is
Mario Rothbard speaks of this.
You can. It's just you got to wait 9 months.
Oh dear. Oh well. I mean, we can make that work.
Where's baby Timu when you need it?
Baby Timu. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, no. Thanks everyone for tuning in. out of the 2 hours that we spent on this space, I think we probably spent a good 15 minutes talking about Thomas Massey, but that's all right. Always good to
One
have.
last thing I want to address. I saw a comment in the live chat, and it triggered me a bit. I've got to say this. So there's this Lex Y4S1L gentleman who says this talk of attracting artists reads a lot like central planning. Pay them, create the art you want, train talent, or just sit there and see the market develop. Empty up to education could be counterproductive. This is exactly wrong, right? So I mean, first of all, it's not central planning, which I'm talking about influencing the culture in order to change the way people are thinking. I'm not talking about like issuing commands to the central committee of artists, right?
Well, I
And the
mean
other
that's
thing is
okay,
that-
but I was going to say that everyone has to now produce ANCAP art every single day.
and
That is
realism.
I am
That's
the central planner. That is the new rule. You'll have quotas for ANCAP balls and Murray Rothbard portraits every single day.
We're gonna have MS Paint, Refutations of Anarcho-Capitalism comics. Everyone's gonna be making them. MS Prac. The other thing I was gonna say is that like and the changing of the culture is actually important and separate from like contracting artists. Obviously, you know, paying artists to do stuff for you, especially if they're willing to use AI tools to improve their workflow, right, is definitely like a useful good thing, right? But like paying artists is insufficient to recapture the fine arts from the leftist ideology, right? Like obviously if you go to like some like leftist artists and you're like, can I pay you to draw my Ann Capistan comic, right, that I wrote, and it's like suit turbo ANCAP, it's anti-leftist, they're gonna say no. They're gonna say go fuck yourself, right? You know, rightfully it's their right to say no, but obviously we need to generate artists who are willing and interested in doing this, right? It's not just that like we need artistry is not just any other industry, right? Artistry is the industry where you're putting forward a philosophical position in a concrete aesthetic form, right? And having people who are motivated to do so is important, right? In order to advance our position specifically.
There's also the side benefit that the more objectivist artists you're able to convince and generate, the better the art will get. I mean, we've all seen what the so-called artists are putting out these days, and it's terrible for the most part. It gets better when they have the correct philosophy to guide them on how they're supposed to create art. And this is the whole thesis behind the Fountainhead. It's not the whole thesis, but it's part of it.
Yeah, the best artists. Oh, am I interrupting? I think my X space is cutting out, and I can't.
No, you're
No,
fine.
you're good. You're good.
I don't know. Okay, so let me say the best artists, and particularly the most psychologically stable artists, tend to be the ones who are least like seeped in the leftist ideology, right? So like that you can find good artists who have like the leftist convictions and presuppositions, obviously, right? But they don't tend to apply the art can be whatever you want worldview to artistry. They generally have like at least a stable view of like, no, being technically proficient in artwork is good, even if like they might concede like, oh yeah, but obviously it's subjective, but I'm just going by my subjective preference to do whatever I think it looks actually good and technically proficient, right? They might say that. They're kind of rationalizing that, right? And they might have some leftist political dogma, but as you get better and as you get like to more and more psychologically stable artists, you end up seeing people who are like, yeah, I don't care about the leftist politics or like the artistry worldview. I have a vision that I want to accomplish. I need to be technically proficient to accomplish that vision. So I'm going in and practicing the necessary fundamental elements of art to accomplish that, right? And so you can just see, what is that? That's induction. That's applying objectivism to art in a limited sense, right? Like the objective method, right? Not the objectivist philosophy fully. And I think you can just see it's just natural, like, you know.
Cool. All right. Well, on that note, we'll leave it there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hoping that the next one will be not this coming weekend, but the weekend after. We'll have to confirm that. But hoping to get back to some kind of like regularly scheduled programming with the planned kind of original time slot that we'd been going with earlier. That's since kind of been broken up by some stuff that I've had to.
And then we'll be able to regain that that fan that you lost.
Oh yeah. Someone, not going to say who it was, Someone in the last space left a comment basically just like, I'm not going to say abusing, but like being like how dare you, like have an unusual time slot, like you're just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks at this point, or something to that effect. So like from my perspective, I think like more content's better than less content. I'm thinking is my thinking. So if we can find a slot to do it, then we'll do it. But yeah, look, hoping to get back to that normal programming. But on that note, thanks for everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Zal Zulu.
Zal Zulu, and make sure everybody, aligns their altar of Liquid Zulu correctly. It's got to point right at Mecca. This is now a cult of
Yes,
personality. I'm
and say your
confirming here.
your 5 prayers every single day to Muhammad Al Zulu.
Yeah, I am confirming now on stream we're pivoting. I've thought it over. We're pivoting into the cult. We're embracing it as a cult. Now you've got to all give me $1,000 a year, and you've got to pay 10 grand for each of my courses, and then you can level up, and eventually maybe you'll be able to get beamed away by Xenu as well. We are a cult now. Thank you everybody for watching.
Zal Zulu.
All right. Cool. So yeah, thank everybody who came along, especially those who donated. And yeah, I'll see you on, was it Friday? I'm doing that debate with the Kantian. Friday? Don't have it noted down properly. Maybe another day. I had to skip it last time because a terrible headache. So that won't happen again. We'll be able to... Yes, Friday. Cool.